Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, it is time to once again praise the Holy One known as college football. Welcome to episode 12 of the Saturday Sermon College Football Show. My name is Joe with my co-host Nick. Nick, how you feeling?
You know, same old, same old. Watching a little action tonight. I'm watching the game actually behind your shoulder here, keeping up. So, yeah, not missing much, but yeah, not too bad. Can't complain.
I'm not going to lie, I am enjoying an ice cold beverage today. I might have two during this episode. I'm having Leinenkugel Oktoberfest because it's probably one of the last few weeks that I'm going to be able to get Oktoberfests, which is very sad because this is always my favorite beer time of year. But, Nick, what'd you do this weekend, brother?
Watch football per
Yeah?
usual. Rainy day. I literally didn't leave the couch today or this weekend. Wasn't feeling the best, but I got a TV, well, two TVs set up and watched all the games. Had a couple decent ones. Uh, had to wait all day into the night to watch my team on Peacock,
Peacock.
which we'll talk about that. But
Yeah, because
yeah,
I have a crash out in relation to that today. So when we do that little
oh,
crash
join the
outs,
club.
yeah, we have that crash out segment. Let me go first so I can get it out of my system. But because I'm sure you're gonna crash out on the same thing, so I'll let you echo off of me. But I don't ever crash out, so I want to crash out on
No,
this
no,
tonight.
no. You take it. You
But
take it.
Nick, I did something similar, but something different than what I normally do. This weekend, I actually packed my garage. You look behind me, there's nothing really behind me other than the thing covering the window, that little McMurray College tarp. I'm packing my garage. I'm in the middle of a move. I should be gone in the next couple of weeks. Next time, next week we'll record the episode like normal, but 2 weeks from now, we'll put out an episode where I'm probably going to be in an unfinished house and it's going to look awkward in the background, or I might even be with Nick. We can figure that out. But I'm in the process, as I said 2 episodes ago, I'm in the process of relocating back home to be with family, to be with friends, to raise our child with people and a support system around us instead of being 2 hours away like we have for the past 13 years. But packed my garage up, got 3 TVs still on the wall that are waiting until this weekend to come down. Big UFC fight on this weekend. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight titles this weekend. Got some big college football games to watch this weekend, so I'm going to keep those three up just for that. Other than that, though, man, I didn't do much else. I literally did my normal thing outside of that. Drank beer, watched some football, and packed my garage. So, Nick, man, let's dive into some games. It was a crazy week. We have 3 games to cover today on our review. We're going to start with number 3, Georgia at 16, Ole Miss. The final score was 28-10, Ole Miss. Nick, what are your thoughts on this game? How are you feeling about this game?
Georgia has one signature win against a team that we think is really good, but we're not quite sure if they're really good. They've skated by. They should have lost to Kentucky. I think that Ole Miss is a pretty solid football team, and I think that they haven't played their best football all year. But man, there are serious issues in Athens. Georgia has turned the football. Their turnover margin is -3. This is a perennial powerhouse that has won several national titles in the past couple years. Their turnover margin is -3. Carson Beck
Nick,
has
and
thrown 12 picks,
this is a
and
team
they've
that
fumbled.
this is a team with a turnover margin of -3 that we and a lot of other people expected to be a national championship contending team. Those turnovers are what's stopping this from happening. But continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all good. They have also now they've only lost 3 of them, but they've fumbled the football 11 times. 11 times. They've put the ball up for grabs outside of the picks 11 times. If they don't get those fumbles back, worst case scenario, you're looking at 20 plus turnovers.
Now, we talk about fumbling, and we talk about fumbling by the running backs. How much of that has to do with them doing back by committee and not letting someone truly get in a groove? I'm personally just like the dual quarterback system. I'm personally not a fan of running back by committee where you have three or four running backs running the ball at all points in time because I feel like once you get somebody in the groove and you pull them out in yardage situations, you put yourself in a position in a situation where when you put someone else back on the field or you put someone fresh on the field, they're not ready for the contact. They're not ready for the impact. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the running back by committee thing. I think they had four running backs, right? That they use, or three running
Well,
backs that they use
so
pretty heavy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just as a Penn State fan, we have two guys at running back that can play football. But that being said, they ride the hot hand. Whoever is in the game and is killing it is going to stay in the game. They don't bounce back and forth and switch if somebody's rolling. And we've talked about this with quarterbacks, the same thing. So yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that, but man, they got some serious issues. This is a huge win for Ole Miss. Ole Miss has an excellent defensive front, and it finally was able to show and pay dividends this week against a team who likes to turn the football over, and they made the most of it. And they got after Carson Beck and that um, Georgia front, and man, that was a dominant performance, an outright dominant performance.
I agree to an extent, but you also got to think Ole Miss really didn't do anything offensively either in this game. I mean, their kicker scored what 16 of 28 points in the game. So Ole Miss does, as we know, Ole Miss they were shown to be frauds, but is Georgia a bigger fraud than Ole Miss at this point?
Well, that's what my next question was going to say. Well, does this game say more about Ole Miss or does this game say more about Georgia?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think Ole Miss is better than what they've shown, and I think Georgia is a little bit worse than what they were portrayed to be. My big thing and my takeaways from the game, Nick Carson Beck, he's been looking atrocious. I mean, this game he was bad. You know, 20,
Picks.
20 for 31, 186 yards, zero touchdown, one interception. This season alone, he literally has 2,488 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Their offense hasn't really been putting it together. I mean, since that explosion against Alabama, and I mean, even since Kentucky, if you want to be honest to be honest, like even since Kentucky, their offense really hasn't put it together. They've had two really good quarters. Now, the Texas game's a different story, but they've had two really good quarters this whole season, and that was that Alabama game. Would you agree?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, I was looking at this earlier, just who they've played, and they've not dominated really anybody. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. You have, you know, Auburn's not good, but I mean, Clemson, was that a big win or was it not? At this point, I'm not quite sure. You have Kentucky game, 1 point game. They should have lost that football game. There was questionable calls. They should have lost it. Mississippi State, it's like the worst team in the SEC. 10-point victory. They gave up 31 points. Florida, two touchdown game, and that wasn't just an outright dominant performance. I, I, Again, their biggest win is against Texas, which I think was a pretty big win. But again, Texas hasn't really played anybody, so we really don't know who Texas is.
Yeah.
And that goes into a deeper, topic. But what I will say is this puts Ole Miss in a good spot. I personally think that their schedule is pretty bad, and them at two losses, the thought that they have still a route into the playoff, I don't know how to feel about it.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, man, I don't know. They very well are putting themselves in a position to sneak in, and
Yeah.
Georgia is flirting with disaster.
Well, that all depends on the Georgia Tennessee game this weekend too. I mean, Alabama will definitely be the first team in if you talk about Alabama Ole Miss. But the beautiful part about this 12-team playoff is that you can have two losses and still find your way into the playoffs.
Well, you know what the crazy thing is? There was a couple of commentators talking about it. You could you could have three losses, truthfully, and potentially sneak in. Historically, top 12 opponents, there have been three lost top 12 opponents. So I mean, crazier things have happened. Now, me personally, in the situation that we're in this year, I don't, Georgia having the toughest schedule, I don't think a three-loss Georgia should get in.
Agree, agree. Now, my question on this game, Lane Kiffin, his contract extension came right before this game, correct? Was it? Was it? I believe it was
Yeah,
Friday, right?
I think it was this one or a week before. I can't
I
remember.
feel like it was the week of this game. And my question for you is, do you think that Lane Kiffin's contract extension might have lit a fire under Ole Miss's rear end to kind of come together and say, hey, we're going to continue to play for this guy who's going to continue to be here for us? Or do you think it was just a weird coincidence?
I think Ole Miss was supposed to be a good football team all along, and they've just been disappointing. They've had the pieces to get it done. They just haven't been able to put it together all season like we thought. Georgia, on the other hand, is trending downwards. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think that's always a piece, a little added motivation, but I just think this is how the season has trended. And I mean, you know, I will say I made some pretty big calls last week, couple predictions, some bold predictions. If you recall, I said at the beginning of the season, I think Ole Miss is going to clip Georgia this year. I didn't think it would be in this kind of fashion. I
Yeah.
thought it would be
I think,
Georgia beating everybody and Georgia kind of battered because their schedule's rough and Ole Miss being a lot better and sneaking
well,
one in.
and
But
we both agreed there was going to come a point in time this season where Georgia was going to drop one because of the fact that they were going to play murderers row literally week after week after week after week.
100%.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't expect Alabama to be their first loss. If I'm going to be 100% fully transparent with you,
No,
but I also saw Ole Miss, in Georgia having a 1-1 where they play in the regular season, one team wins, and then in the SEC championship they play again and the other team wins. But I don't know. It was a crazy week, crazy game. I was excited. I was really excited because again, this goes back to what we've been saying. There's so much parity this year in the college football, but there's so
especially in
much
the SEC.
SEC. Yep, that's what I was going to say, especially in the SEC this year. So this is exciting. But Nick, let's not spend too much more time on this game. It's over. Let's go to another upset. Number 4 Miami at Georgia Tech. Final score 28-23 Georgia Tech. And I will say this. We knew this was going to come. We knew this was going to come eventually. I mean, when you talk about it, Miami struggled against Virginia Tech. You talk about the controversial touchdown out of bounds call at the end of the game. They struggled with Cal. That literally came down to Cam Ward having a Heisman caliber second half. They also struggled with Louisville. This loss was inevitable. It was going to happen at some point in the season. I'm going to use a word that I don't normally use. I'm just flabbergasted that it happened to Georgia Tech again, 2 years in a row. If you recall, last year, Georgia Tech, Miami. Miami's up. All Miami has to do is take a knee to ice the game, right? There was like 2 minutes left. Take a couple knees, the game's over. Miami decides, Mario Cristobal decides, let's be aggressive. Let's run the ball. And what do? They run the ball. They fumble the ball
Pop it up.
wearing those neon jerseys. If you remember correctly, it was the black
Those
helmets
are
with the
ugly.
neon logo.
Yeah.
Very ugly. They ran the ball. They fumbled it. Georgia Tech went down to score. And then what happened after that? Well, the great Mario Cristobal decides the clock is dead. Let's call a timeout. Burns a timeout, then ends up biting them on the rear end. They end up losing that game against a Georgia Tech team that was much more inferior than they were last year. Nick, it's always great to see history repeating itself, and I truly enjoyed seeing Georgia Tech take another Florida team out of the running of the ACC title. Well, not out of the running, but take another team down in the ACC, another Florida team down in the ACC. But Nick, man, regardless of what happened in this game, Cam Ward is still showing how good of a quarterback he is. I mean, he was 25 for 49, 348 yards with 3 touchdowns. Nick,
I
what are
had
your
this
thoughts?
conversation. Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody Sunday. Imagine what Miami would look like if they did not have Cam Ward.
100%. That's what I was going to ask.
They would
That's
have at least three losses.
So my question for you is, and the question that I have written down, my question for you is Is Cam Ward going to take a playoff team to a Florida State situation once he leaves and once he declares for the draft?
Could very well be the case. I mean, man, I think what what you can see more than anything here is just how valuable Cam Ward is. And I think, in my personal opinion, that that should be reflected in Heisman votes because if Miami, and again, the ACC is not the Big Ten or not,
You're right.
the SEC, but it's kind of the same thing with like Travis Hunter, Shador, like where would they be without those two guys? But Colorado rather in the Big 12, but Miami has played with their food all season and they've relied on Cam to bail them out, and he's been able to do it because he's that good of a football player.
Do you think they've played with their food, or do you think they've played to the caliber of a team that they are, and Cam Ward has just bailed them out by playing above and beyond? I don't think
Well,
it's
the
playing.
thing
I
is,
don't think it's playing with their food. I think that Miami, but Restrepo is an incredible receiver. I'll give Restrepo that.
yes,
That kid is a
yes.
stud. That kid is going to be an NFL. He's going to be a two receiver in the NFL, but he's going to be a great number two. He's going to be like a Tyler Boyd. He's going to be a great number two. But man, I mean, are they just that bad of a team?
I don't know if it's that because how often have they gone up big or, you know, just let a team go up on them and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, let's flip the switch and let's play
Let's
football.
coast, yeah. Who have they went
Let's
up?
let's
Who have
score.
they? Who worth value have they went up big on? And I don't want you to have to Google search it or anything like that, but off the top of your head, who of value have they went up big on? I mean, Virginia Tech played them close to the wire. Cal was up huge on them, and Cal was a team that a lot of
Well,
people at
see,
that point in
I
time
think
had as a top caliber team. And then you have Louisville. I mean, Louisville might have been the only team.
I guess what I'm thinking about more than anything that stands out to me is they were down by 24 points to Cal.
Yeah,
And then in the blink of an eye, they come back and they 24-point deficit just wiped out. So you have to be incredibly talented to be able to do that,
agree.
right? I don't care who you're playing in college football. If you are down 24 points, you have to be talented to be able to come back from something like that. So they have it in them within their ability to play better than they are. Maybe it's a discipline type of thing. Maybe it's a culture thing. I mean, Mario has not made the best decisions as a football coach. So, I'm not quite sure what it is. They have shown flashes that they could be a lot better, and they've just never been able to put it together and step on someone's throat.
Yeah. Well, my
And it was a
question,
matter of time.
my question as well. So, not my question, but my statement going into my next question. My statement is my dad, who doesn't know a lot about college football, called me on Sunday and he said, I heard that Miami's coach is the worst coach in college football. How true is that? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, because those kids can play some ball. But I keep hearing how bad of a coach they have. Nick, I think Cristobal he's not a good coach. I'm not a big fan of him. I have never been a big fan of him. So my statement is, my dad even realizes how bad of a coach Mario Cristobal is. And he knows nothing about college football. My question is, where does Miami go from this loss? And I say that thinking about what is coming ahead in their future schedule. I'm not talking about the rest of the regular season. I'm talking about the ACC title game, where it's looking more and more likely that they're going to play SMU. SMU
Oh,
is
buddy.
going. SMU is going to have probably a decent shot, a pretty higher than. I mean, they're going to have a great shot of being in that ACC title game. I mean, the strength of their schedule is pretty much over at this point. They're playing
They
Boston
control their
College.
own destiny at
Yep,
this
and
point
they're playing Boston College this weekend. Who Boston
with a
College?
hurt quarterback.
Castellanos is gone. He's entered the portal
Oh, wow.
as of today. So he wasn't hurt. He pulled himself. He got benched and then pulled himself from the team to take,
I
because
thought
of
he was
personal
hurt.
issues. Nope, he hit the portal. So
Sayonara.
It's looking like SMU and Miami are going to meet in the ACC title game, and that is going to be a wonderful, exciting game because
Explosive.
you have the new kid on the block coming in, making that ACC title game, and
Mind
Nick.
you, a lot of those teams did not want them to join.
Yep, I was going to say
They
Nick.
got that chip on their shoulder.
They were a team that were not really wanted in the conference, and they're doing a great job right now of making things happen. But my question is, where does Miami go from this loss? Do they continue to win, or do they piss down their foot the rest of the season?
They have Wake Forest and Syracuse.
Yep, they have a
Syracuse
bye
could be
week. They have
tricky.
a bye week this week, and then Wake Forest is next week, and then Syracuse is the last game of the season. I agree, Syracuse is very tricky.
Syracuse can be tricky. I don't think they have an issue with Wake. This could be the opposite too.
Hank Bachmeier, what?
Your boy. I think this could be the opposite though too, because I mean, and this will have to say this will be a lot on Mario Cristobal. They have the talent, like we've talked about.
Hmm.
So this is a make it or break situation for Mario. Is he a decent coach? Can he kick his guys into gear, and can they, you know, go and throttle these next two opponents and prove that they are actually who we thought they were before this game? Or yeah, they lay an egg again and they ruin their season. It remains to be seen.
Now, last thing on this game, or not even on this game, last thing on Miami's future, and since we talked about SMU, I just want to talk about SMU one more time. We were wrong about Cam Ward, but one thing I was right on. Week 0, week 1, whatever episode it was that we recorded where I made the statement, that move from Stone to Jennings for SMU has paid dividends for that team.
Massive,
I mean,
massive.
Jennings this past weekend was 17 for 25, 306 with 2 touchdowns. The kid is so much better than Stone was. I told you, I believe I said it on the pod, when they named both of them captains at the start of the season, you knew something was brewing. And what happened? They benched Stone, and they've looked like a completely different team. I love watching SMU. Our buddy Dakota, and we'll clip this, but our buddy Dakota referred to SMU as his stepchild because he loves watching how good they are. But Penn State is his child, SMU is his stepchild. That's so fun. Man, SMU, it's so great, especially because you talk about the documentary on 30 for 30, the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary where they talk about the Pony Excess, and now they're doing the same thing that they did that got them the death penalty, and it's okay.
They are, we've talked, how many times have we said it? SMU is a sleeping giant
They are.
because of that money that they have.
That oil money.
If they make it to that ACC championship, honestly, they can lose and it doesn't matter because that is going to propel this team. Honestly, they're already there now. I
I
mean,
agree.
they're so close. They could miss the
Yep.
ACC and they have already caught the attention of these good old boys from Dallas that got large deep pockets. That is a sleeping giant. They have a decent coach in place, and that's the difference. You have these teams like Texas A&M who's always had the money, but they have Jimbo's. I don't know what the hell the guy did. Now you got a coach, you got deep pockets. That's a sleeping giant.
Agree. Well, speaking of sleeping giants, Nick, number 11 Alabama at 15 LSU. Final score 42-13 Alabama. And I said speaking of sleeping giants, Joey transitions. Jalen Milroe. Is he a running back? Is he a quarterback? Is he just an athlete? What is he, Tim Tebow reincarnated? I mean, the man didn't have to use his arm against LSU, who a lot of people, including myself, thought had the ability to upset Alabama. LSU's run defense showed how bad it is and continues to show how bad it is. I mean, we talk about the USC game. I think there was record yardage or season high yardage in that game for the USC's running backs. But Jalen Milroe, the man rushed for 12 times, 185 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns with a 72-yard incredible run. They exposed what we already knew, Nick. LSU has a horrible run defense. Alabama is still alive.
They cannot defend a quarterback
No,
run.
but Alabama they're still alive in the college football hunt, the college football playoff hunt. But the most important thing is, are they about to get hot again? Because they did this last year. Milroe had some struggles, came out, they got hot, they ended up in the playoffs. Are they about to get hot, sneak in the playoffs? The topic of discussion for this is, should we buy stock in Alabama making a run for the Natty?
I'm not ready to go there yet, but just
It's
there's been
it's
too much parity in college football.
but it's believable.
It is. But now I've talked about this in great lengths, where this college football playoff is a different beast in a sense that think about the NFL. How many wild card teams went on to win a Super Bowl?
I'll do you one better. The MLB.
Same thing.
Think about Major League Baseball. Think about teams that start off really rocky and they finish the season and sneak into that wild card spot. The Mets this year, perfect example. I mean, the Mets, they were ready to sell out everything. They were ready to trade this player and to cut this player and to not bring back this player. They made a couple moves, and they were the hottest team at baseball coming to the end of the year. I mean, they didn't make it to the World Series, but they were one of the hottest teams at baseball. Is Alabama in that situation right now? Could they sneak in as a 12 seed or an 11 seed and make their way into the playoffs and find that opportunity to just be hot?
Yes, 100%. And that's what the point I'm trying to get at. You can afford to mess up and still
Mm-hmm.
think about, and now this is, the first one that comes to mind because it's near and dear, but Penn State in 2016. Now, granted, they ended up losing the Rose Bowl in an absolute classic,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a team that started off really poor. All right. They got dominated by Michigan. They dropped one to Pitt. Then they went on to beat the number two ranked Buckeyes, and then they rolled through the rest of their schedule.
Yeah.
That team missed the playoff by maybe two rankings. I think they're right around. I don't. They were close, and they had a case to be a playoff football team. They make the playoff that season in a season that they were hot. They don't take a month off before they play their next game. They go right into the playoff. That's a I mean that this is what we're talking about. And this is what's so exciting about this. So Alabama at LSU. Do you think this game says more about?
Both. I think it proves what we already know about LSU, that the run defense sucks, but I think it shows you that Alabama has a lot left in the tank when it comes to fighting for where they feel like they deserve.
It says a lot more
To be,
about
excuse me.
Alabama. It says a lot more about Alabama.
Okay.
And you want to notice something too. Kalen DeBoer has not been the same type of guy on the sidelines,
Mm-hmm.
the way he's carrying himself. He's been a little Saban-esque, and coincidence? I mean, I don't think so. The guy tightened up real quick because if he didn't, they were going to burn his house down in Tuscaloosa. And he got serious, man. That is a dangerous football team down the stretch.
Yeah, I think they're going to be hot. I think they're going to. I really do. I think they have a chance. I said that was the question. I mean, I really do think that they have a shot to make a noise in the playoffs if they sneak in and they make it. I really do. I think they're going to be the hot team at the end of the season. I think it just took a couple losses to make that happen. But Nick, let's not spend too much more time on this game. Next game we're going to talk about is our next thing we're going to talk about. Excuse me, is our Ashton Jeanty Player of the Week award. So Nick, I'll let you go with your players of the week, and then I'll roll into mine.
Oh man. You know, I wanted to give it to Jackson Dart for leaving the game and coming back, but I think that Ole Miss front, just as an entire group, that's who I'm going with because the way, yes, George has turned the football over, but they got after Carson Beck, and they are the difference maker of the football game.
So they're your Ashton Jeanty Players of the Week. The whole
Yes,
offensive
sir.
line, the whole front.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I have three. First and foremost, let's start with the obvious. Quinn Ewers, quarterback, Texas, 49-17 win over Florida. The man was 19 for 27, 333 with 5 passing touchdowns. My second player of the week. Congratulations, Ashton Jeanty. I'm going to give it to Caton Hauser, quarterback, Eastern Carolina. Their big win over FAU was 49-14. The kid looked better than Quinn Ewers when it comes to stat wise. I mean, he was 17 for 22, 343 yards passing, 5 passing touchdowns. It's actually his second week in a row with 5 passing touchdowns. He had 5 carries for 52 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. So congratulations, you deserve that award. But most importantly, the real player of the week, Ashton Jeanty, running back, Boise State.
Imagine that.
Big 28-21 win over Nevada, which they should have never been in that game against. But Nevada has played tough against some teams this season. But he had 34 carries, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Those are my players of the week, Nick. Very proud of Ashton for once again receiving his own award. So, yeah.
Actually, you know what? Did you see his celebration? God, it's the meme, the guy who does that little jig.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
I saw side by side today. It was pretty funny. Instagram is unbeaten. I mean, they're undefeated. Instagram is the greatest social media platform of all time because of the Explorer page where you find suggested videos and content for you. And that actually popped up, and it was literally a side by side of them doing it in unison. It was pretty funny. So
He could have rushed for an average 2 yards a carry with 3 fumbles and 1 touchdown. And if he hit that celly, I'd consider him for his own award.
well, congratulations, Ashton, on winning your own award. Congratulations, Caton. Congratulations, Quinn. Congratulations to the O line from Ole Miss. Nick,
D-line.
D-line. Sorry about that. But Nick, we usually go into hot topics right now, so you can rattle through some of those if you'd like.
Yeah, I don't have, man, we talked about really a lot of what I was going to go into. The biggest thing was Reese Davis went on a tangent about Georgia being left out of the latest college football rankings. And I want to know your thoughts. Should they have been left out? Should they be
They
in
should
there?
have. They should have. Who in the SEC as of right now? Now this weekend could change a little bit with that. But who out of the SEC should they be over? Yes, they have a win over Texas. A very dominating win over Texas. But I mean, you talk about record-wise, Texas deserves to be in it over them. Who else in the SEC do they deserve to jump over? Truthfully,
I'm not making an argument for it.
Tennessee with 1 loss. Alabama was in the rankings as well, right? With 1 loss.
Yeah. 2 losses.
2 losses, excuse me. And then Texas, I mean, out of those teams, Alabama beat Georgia. So they can't jump Alabama. Those other 2 teams are 1-loss teams that have played tougher teams and have won against tougher teams. I mean, who do you jump?
If you take that same resume and swap that logo for an Indiana Hoosier logo, there's no question that Indiana's out.
Which I still think that Indiana should be. I think they should be higher ranked than Ohio State, based off a record.
I'm not going to go that far yet, but I can understand.
Take the resume out. Take the logo off their helmet. Take the same record. Flip it. Ohio State is ranked 1 right now, or 2.
Signature games, strength of schedule is the difference here.
But I'm saying, if you give Indiana and Ohio State, right?
Oh, there's brand bias.
Yes, you give them the same record, you give them the same schedule, or excuse me, you give them the opposite records, you give them the opposite schedules. Ohio State beats all the same teams Indiana's beat at this point. Indiana has beat all the same teams, and it lost a close one against Oregon. Indiana's not even in the playoffs right now.
I would disagree. I think they would be. I think they would be because you'd still have a victory at Penn State and a 1 loss to the number 1 ranked team in the country. They would definitely be in.
But they would be much lower ranked. They would not be ranked as high as Ohio State is.
I don't know if they'd be 2. Yeah. Things are going to play itself out in 2 weeks, so I'm excited for that one.
What else, hot topic wise?
Well, I mean, just to expand on that, I think if Georgia wins this game this weekend, then absolutely throw them back in there because truth is, they've played a bitch of a schedule, and they would now have 2 signature W's over 2 playoff football teams. So time will tell, just like it always does.
I think if they
You
beat
know?
Tennessee, they jump Tennessee, or they jump to where Tennessee's at. I think you just flip them in the top 25.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
You have, speaking of Georgia, Mr. Mr. Kirby Smart in the media called one of his players an idiot. Now, granted, kid was an idiot for what he was doing,
Agree.
but can you say that as your head coach? No, that was really stupid. And it just something about Kirby's just rubbing me wrong this rubbing me the wrong way this year. It's like a it's I mean the culture the trouble that these guys are getting into. He pushed the player himself on the field. He's now made a second public apology for calling one of his players an idiot in the media. What I don't really know what to say about it, man, but it's like it's a culture thing there. I really do feel that way, and it's I think it's showing on the field. I personally do.
I agree too. I'm not a fan of Kirby right now. Not a fan of Kirby in general. But uh,
It's been a fall from grace a
it's
little bit.
it's been a fall from grace in the sense that I think that when Saban left, he felt that he had the keys to the kingdom and he could do no wrong afterwards. And I think he quickly realized I still have a lot of great teams to play, and I still need to act a certain way, and he's not doing that. And I think he's starting to realize that is what I mean. Like I think I think he thought he had the keys to the kingdom of the SEC, and he truly realized he doesn't anymore. And I think he's panicking because of that. I think the Alabama game is the reason why he's panicking because of that.
I'm gonna take his own words out of his mouth. Welcome to the SEC, baby.
Any more hot topics or move on?
No, that's it. Not much going this week.
All right, preview game I'm most excited about this week. And no, it's not my team. Number 23 Mizzou at 21 South Carolina. Currently, South Carolina is a 12-point favorite. I don't know if you saw that or not. Matchup Predictor has South Carolina as a 69.5%. They have them as a 69.95% chance of winning. I really think that South Carolina is starting to put it together, and they're starting to finally get over the hump to win those big games towards the end of the season. They played a tight game against pretty much all of your top SEC teams, and finally winning those. I mean, think about it. They beat the brakes off of Vandy. They beat Texas A&M pretty handedly, 44-20. They smashed Oklahoma. If you think about it on the flip side of the coin, though, Mizzou, they got dog walked by Alabama. South Carolina only lost by 2. They played a very, very tight game against Oklahoma, which South Carolina smashed Oklahoma. Nick, who do you have in this game, and what is your thoughts about this game? Because my thoughts are, you got Sellers and you got Rocket. They're going to make a statement this week, and I truly believe that. What are your
This
thoughts?
team is very close to being a playoff football team.
They're 10 points away.
That's wild to think about.
I mean, LSU and
They
Alabama. LSU and Alabama literally puts them in playoffs right now.
and LSU also there were some questionable
There
calls
was.
in that game that
Yep.
dictated that. The spread's actually 13.5 right now from off based off of ESPN bet. I'm looking right off the app.
So that's changed in the past 10 hours.
According to Eli Drinkwitz, they're in the playoff hunt. They may have a little extra motivation because they're in that
No.
playoff hunt.
No.
But no, I can understand why it's 13.5. I think that's kind of high. I do. I'd probably stay away from it, but at the same time, I could very well see South Carolina winning this game by 20 points, 17 points.
This, to me, I am calling it right now. Clip. I'm calling it right now. This is going to be a repeat performance. Mizzou versus A&M. I'm calling it right now. I can see it. I think
I wouldn't be shocked.
The way that South Carolina handled A&M. Granted, it wasn't at Kyle Field. It was at South Carolina. I think that this is going to be a repeat performance of that game. I think that South Carolina, like we said, is literally a couple points away from being a playoff team, and they are putting it together. I think they're, what, 4 in a row? They've won 4 in a row right now, right? Their last loss was Alabama, right? In that
Yeah,
tight game, yeah.
it
So
sure
they're,
was.
I mean, they're
And
either, it's
they
either
dominated South Carolina, they dominated Vanderbilt,
Oklahoma.
they
So it's
dominated
it's
Oklahoma.
it's 3 in a row then, right? It
One,
went
two,
it
three
was
in a yeah, yeah,
three
three
in
in
a
a
row.
row.
Yeah, it was Alabama, A&M, Vandy. So
They went from 3-3 to 6-3.
yeah, I think that I think that South Carolina is going to dog walk Mizzou. I really do. I think Mizzou is going to fall apart, and you're going to see them fall apart this weekend. I truly believe that. And plus, it's at South Carolina.
You know, it's weird because looking through Mizzou's 7-2, but they don't feel like they're 7-2. They feel like it feels like they're 5-4. But they're 7-2. They are still sticking around in that playoff in that playoff hunt. Um, Now I've always thought that Eli Drinkwitz is a sneaky little bastard, and I
He's a
think
cornball.
he's a nerdy little dweeb with ways to win. But man, Beamer ball, baby. South Carolina is playing some really good football, and that's going to be hard to stop.
All right, so who do you pick? I got South Carolina.
I got South Carolina.
All right, perfect. Let's transition to this next game. This is one near and dear to me. Number 7, Tennessee at 12, Georgia. Currently, Georgia is a 10-point
Ooh.
favorite. Currently, Georgia has a 61.7% chance of winning per the matchup predictor. Tennessee is currently on a 4-game win streak after the upset loss at Arkansas. UGA is coming off a really embarrassing game against Ole Miss. My three biggest points in this game will start off with number 1, Carson Beck. Carson Beck has been throwing a lot of interceptions this season. Carson Beck has been turning the ball over a lot this season. Tennessee's defense is incredible. Tennessee's defense is very, very, very good. Is this going to be a perfect storm where Carson Beck makes mistakes, Tennessee capitalizes off of it, and their defense runs the table and scores some points? I think if Tennessee's defense is played as good as they've played all season this year, Tennessee has a really good chance of winning this game because of the fact that Georgia can't protect the ball. Second thing, Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson statistically has had an incredible year this year. 201 carries, 1,129 yards, 20 rushing touchdowns. But he's coughed the ball up way too much the past 3 weeks. He has had 3 fumbles lost, 3 weeks in a row that's got him pulled from the game. That's had Tennessee rely on other running backs to carry some of the load. With Bishop being out this week due to injury, his backup running back, Dylan Sampson has to protect the ball. Now, will pressure cause Dylan Sampson to fold, like he has been the past couple of weeks, or will pressure cause Dylan Sampson to play perfect football? Because if he plays perfect football, I am not worried about Tennessee's offense. Point 3, I do worry about Tennessee's offense in the sense that Nico's currently in concussion protocol. My guy who I think that can really shape this game this week, Deontay Thornton, is currently in protocol as well with an upper body injury. Man, if Nico's not playing and Thornton's not playing, I don't think we're going to get a lot done on the pass game, and I think that Georgia's just going to stack the box knowing we have so many running backs that can run the ball. But if Nico's here, and Nico plays, and Thornton plays, I think we're going to have a really good chance of winning this game. I will not pick a winner of this game, but I'm just very excited about how this shapes up with the future of the SEC. Nick, your thoughts on this game? I know I just put out a bunch of true fan facts right there, but what are your thoughts on this game?
I think this is going to be the opposite of a barn burner. It is going to be a low scoring affair.
Which, outside of Kent State, most of Tennessee's games this season have been.
Yes, yeah. And this is why I'm torn because Georgia's a wild card. They are still Kirby Smart has still accomplished so much. That program has accomplished so much. It's hard for me to sit here and think just in the matter of a year, they're going to fall flat on their face and just totally end their season with a couple games left on the schedule. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Is this a get right game for Georgia? I mean,
Is this a get right game for Tennessee?
that's another. I mean that's a very fair point. That's a very fair point.
And this is not bias either. Is this a get right game for Tennessee? You've played tight against Florida. You lost to Arkansas. You you beat Mississippi State, which Georgia actually struggled with Mississippi State, if you remember correctly. Is this a game that says, wow, we have somebody that's playoff worthy? We have somebody that's a top tier team in front of us. Is this a let's get all of our ducks in a row? Let's Dylan Sampson not fumble the ball. Let's Nico come out and play. Because Nico practiced Wednesday and Thursday. So Nico, there's all signs pointing to him starting this week. Is this a get right game for them as well?
It could be. I think my concern here is now there's two sides of this coin. My concern for Tennessee is Georgia's been there in the playoff a couple times. This is the playoffs. Their backs have been are against the wall. They have a lot at stake. I mean, they both do, but I mean, this is Georgia. This is a team that I think we both picked to win the national title, if I'm not mistaken. This is they're supposed to be the top dogs, but so part of me sits here and thinks, okay, are they
30,
going to
34 to 20. I don't mean to stop your point. 34 to 20. Tennessee beat Alabama. Now think about that while you're continuing your point.
Sure, yeah. Now, the flip side of that coin is again, this has been a culture thing and they've just not looked great. So I mean, my point is how do you pick this game? How do you pick against Georgia? How do you pick for Georgia at this point?
I'm not going to.
I know you're not, and I don't know if I can either because I'm telling you right now, what if I were to give you a pick right now, it would be with zero confidence, and I guarantee you the pick will probably change by Saturday. So I don't think I have a pick for this one. I don't have a play for it other than I would probably take the under.
Understand that. But like I said, you talked about how Georgia's this and Georgia has this pedigree and Georgia's lived up to the standard. But again, Alabama beat Georgia and Tennessee beat Alabama. I know we don't do the math here, but that says a lot. They showed up
Yeah,
against Alabama.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And their
And it's just
defense
this,
showed up against Alabama, and that's the thing.
this is where things just get so weird though too because if you get the Tennessee that played against Arkansas against Alabama right now, it's probably a different story. But you got a Tennessee who played good football against a Bama team that's like, what do we think they are? But that's the beautiful part of this game is, and again, it's the beautiful part of this 12-team playoff because you're going to see rematches and you're going to see teams when it matters the most. And when the lights are the brightest, it's going to be awesome.
Well, last game of the week. Sorry, that was stupid. I shouldn't have did that. Um, Utah at 17, Colorado. Colorado is an 11.5 point favorite. Matchup predictor has them a 75% chance of winning. Colorado's putting it all together at the end of the season, especially. Utah's kind of fallen short to expectations this year. They had a highly anticipated season coming into this year, and a couple quarterback issues and stuff like that. And they are at the middle of the bottom of the barrel of the Big 12. Man, I'll tell you what. This is my upset alert of the week. I think Brandon Rose, and I think that Micah Bernard has enough in the tank to be able to make an impact this week. I think that there's a pretty good chance that Utah beats Colorado. Nick, what's your thoughts on this game?
Oh, man, every single week I'm looking at Colorado and it's like you've waited for them to slip up. It's not because I'm like, "Oh, I just want them to lose." It's just it's been an expectation because they won 4 games last season, but they just haven't done it. And I'm at the point where it's difficult to say, I don't know, they're on upset alert, but guess what? Last week, I didn't put Miami on upset alert because they kept winning despite me thinking they're going to lose. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. You know how I feel about Kyle Whittingham. You're in the same boat. You know how I feel about the Utes. I think Brandon Rose is a little bit better of a solution than
Isaac Wilson.
Isaac Wilson. He's not great by any means,
He's
but he
not. He's
just had
not
his
Cam
first
Ward.
start.
He's not Cam Ward, but he had
He
his
just
first
had
start.
his he just got his first Cam Rising. Cam Rising.
Cam Rising. My fault. My
Wrong
fault.
Cam. He just got his first start against BYU, who's 9-0. Again in a rivalry football game. In a game you could arguably say they did enough to win. There was a
Controversial. Yep.
questionable, controversial call. You know what? This is going to sound crazy.
Go ahead and pick Colorado just so we can have Utah win.
This is going to sound crazy. I think the difference in this game is going to be Colorado's defense.
Did you just say that in real life? Is this
I
real?
did.
Am I dreaming? Is this
I think I'm hallucinating. I
Oh,
might have just had an aneurysm.
if you talk about this before week 0, you're saying the opposite.
Yeah, there's
You're saying Utah is going to blow Colorado out of the water and their defense is going to be so stout and so sound that they're going to destroy Colorado's offense. But Nick, you just said Colorado's defense.
this has been a weird season
It has been.
because I also wouldn't have picked them to win. No, no, no. I said their ceiling was 7 wins, but they have 3 games left on their schedule.
Yep.
College football, man.
It's a crazy time. Nick, I'm actually picking Colorado in this game, but don't be surprised if Utah pulls off the win. I think that
No.
I think that if Utah wins, it's going to come down to coaching.
Oh, 110%. There's no way you can argue that case. Um, I have a couple upsets actually,
Okay,
and
jump
this
into
is
them.
one of them. Now, last week, this now see all my upsets are gonna go to shit because of how well I did
How
last week.
cocky you were last week?
Last week I was on it.
You were
I
The
picked.
Kansas Iowa State one is very respectable. That is one of those things that if you told me week 5, week 6, this was going to happen, I would say you're dumb. But Iowa State got their first loss, and then what happened?
They got their second loss
Yep,
because you know why? They are not a great team. They're a good team.
a good
They're
team.
on
Yep,
that. I need to put that on a document, like a visual, that tiered list
one
of
of
how I.
those green, red, yellow, one
Yeah,
of
yeah,
those.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but go ahead. You're upset
And
alert.
they're liable to slip up. So Utah at Colorado's first one. We just talked about that one. Also got LSU at Florida. Florida, Billy Napier just coached despite, or crazy to think, but he coached his way to keep his job.
I disagree.
He did enough. Well, okay,
I
depending on
think
what they
I
wanted to
think
do with
I think
Lane.
I think Kiffin signing that extension. How ironic is it? Kiffin signs an extension, and that same week they decide that they're going to go with Napier.
Did they have to make the decision right now, though?
They had
That's
to,
that's the thing that
they had to make a bold statement.
I don't think I would have done it if I wasn't sure that I wanted to keep the guy. I would have waited. This coaching carousel is going to be crazy again.
Well, aren't they still paying Mullins a shit ton of money?
They are, but they've dug themselves deep in a
They
hole.
can't pay 2 coaches that much money.
Florida's Florida doesn't have Florida has decent pockets, but
But
they should have never got rid of Mullins
if you want a
in the
quality
first
coach,
place.
if you want another quality coach after Napier, you have to. I mean,
True,
you're going
true.
to have those pockets even more open. But sorry, I didn't
Either
mean to
way,
interrupt. But
either way, this is probably more about what I think LSU is. They just they just ruined their shot. They are going to be low. They didn't only ruin their shot, they got throttled. They got embarrassed at home at night in Death Valley.
honestly, in Wildcat, they got beat by Wildcat.
They got embarrassed at home. It's supposed to be the toughest place to play, and they got their shit kicked in. Now they're gonna go play at Florida, who has had nothing to lose from the jump and everything to gain, and they've not been terrible down the stretch. I mean, they have talk about difficult schedules. They have is that Abdul Carter in the background? That's crazy. I
It
can
is.
barely.
It is. I think he
That's
made.
crazy.
I think he made team of the week this week. College football team of the week.
Yeah, beast. Anyways, um, Florida's not been bad down the stretch. I think they have a lot of talent, and I think they could get an LSU team who has really nothing to play for in their eyes because they're supposed to be competing for championships. I think Florida has a good shot. And my last one, I'm telling you, these guys are going to ruin a season for somebody else. It may be this week, it may be next week against Colorado. They're going to really mess somebody's season up, and that's Kansas playing at BYU. BYU, with all due respect, I mean, look, they're 9-0. It is very difficult to win football games. They've beat good teams like SMU. They've, I mean, they've played good football. They got away with one probably last week, and I'm gonna re say what I said last week. Kansas is 19 points away. That's the 19 points is the difference from them being 3-6 as opposed to 6-2. So yeah, I think Kansas is. I mean, they showed last week why, like who they can be.
Hmm.
They're still so well coached. I
Yeah.
think they had some growing pains with Andy Kotelnicki leaving, but I'm telling you, if they don't clip BYU this week, they're gonna get Colorado next week, and I stand by that. I don't see them. eh, They're gonna play both of these teams tight, and I think they're probably gonna get one of them.
Agree. I I had two of those games on my upset alert of the week. So I had Colorado and um, I had
Utah.
Colorado, Utah. I had Kansas and BYU on my upset alert, but I actually have Arizona State at K State as my third upset alert game. I think Arizona State
Good one.
has been sneaky good this season. I think Scatabo, he's a one man wrecking crew running the ball, 173 carries, 1,001 yards, 11 touchdowns. I think that if they are able to defensively, if they're able to get K State flustered, I think that they're going to be able to pull off the win. I think that Arizona State is they got a pretty good chance of derailing K State's college football playoff hopes. I really do believe that, and I think this is going to be a very tough game for K State. This game literally has upset written all over it, Nick. So we both pretty much picked Big 12 matchups this week for upset alert.
Because the Big 12 is all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So Nick, toilet bowl game of the week. Do you have any lined up?
I don't have one right now.
Okay, I do.
I don't have one. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know you do. You're always on it.
Always do. Always do. I have toilet bowl game of the week, and it is in the Big 12. Houston at Arizona, 4-5 at 3-6. Arizona is currently a 1 point favorite. Both teams are not doing the best this season. Both teams have showed flashes, but both teams are not doing the best this season. I think this game has toilet bowl written all over it.
What the hell happened to Arizona?
Jed Fish.
Good Lord.
That's the only thing I can think of, Nick. Jed Fish.
They got everybody back, so that's the only piece that's missing.
Yeah. I think they
That's
returned
a shame.
a lot of their coaching staff too.
You literally take what we thought the Big 12 would look like
Utah and Arizona at the top.
and flip it upside down.
Yeah. I mean BYU in our unreleased episode. BYU is
We didn't
the
even give them the time of day to talk about.
no. I mean they were supposed to be the worst team. Them and Houston were supposed to be fighting for the bottom.
Unreal.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's my toilet bowl game of the week. Nick, what is your crash out session? I have my crash out. You know what? I'll let you go first. You go ahead and go first.
No, because listen, this is a special time for you. You don't get angry like me, and this is a good chance for you to. You know what? Here, let's start it this way. I'll give you my. I'm not even crashing out over this one. I'm not that angry about it. It does piss me off, but I'm not as frustrated. So I'll start with the light one. And that is the fact that targeting should not be a game ejection, and it should not affect the next week. These kids are playing their asses off. They're trying whatever they can. Not every single hit or target is malicious, and you're literally taking these opportunities away from these kids. Okay, there was a call from Washington Penn State early in the game that kicked this kid out for the rest of the game. It was one of Washington's solid corners. He was probably their better corner of the two. Great tackle, face mask to face mask. It was targeting, but it was an overall decent hit. He didn't mean to do it. Why are you taking that opportunity from this kid? They need to try to get as much film as possible on them. These kids have aspirations to go play further. All right. You have Indiana player got kicked out first half at Michigan with a minute left in the game. If it was in the second half, and they didn't have this bye week, he would have had to miss the first half against Ohio State, their biggest game of their program's history, probably. I just don't see why this is part of the game. These guys have such limited opportunities. You have 12 games tops to play. And even then you could be injured at any second and never get to play again. I think it should be a quarter, maybe. I think it depends, and there should be varying degrees. Obviously, you see the ones that are clearly dirty, but these other ones, man, like things happen. This game is a fast-paced game. You're bound to have it happen. You shouldn't be getting kicked out of football games.
I I agree with the purpose of targeting, but I think it's been so everything's a target now, and the initial rule was for head-to-head contact that was like reckless and all that stuff, and it is everything's a target now. I mean, even plays that aren't actually targeting are considered
Well,
targets.
it's discretion
It's
too. It's
discretion.
just
It's
like the
ridiculous.
catch rules,
Yep, yep.
and it's gonna change no matter who's officiating the game. You can't even defenseless receiver. Like as a defensive back, as a defensive player, you essentially have to let the guy catch the ball and fall and make the tackle. What are you supposed to do? You can't even play fast. You can't even do your job because of these rules, and you're risking getting kicked out. It's the same thing with these quarterback rules, and that's why a lot of these guys are able to get away with faking the run out of bounds and sneaking it up for, 5, 10 more yards. The fake slide got stopped, but same concept. I think
Shout out to
it's a
Kenny
load of
Pickett.
crap. Yes, yes. I think it's a load of crap. I don't think that these kids should be getting kicked out of games for most of these hits that are happening.
All right, I've been amping myself up. All right, I'll go ahead and do it. College football broadcasts. Nick, it has gotten to a point where I can't even listen to college football games with volume on anymore. I play music. I mean, I think I sent you a couple of pictures this weekend with our videos with me listening to Ball with the Ball by Kid Rock over games, and it made the game so much more entertaining than the broadcasts. More specifically, Peacock, your broadcasting team. By any means, I will not sit here and tell you I'm the biggest Penn State fan in the world. I'm not a huge Washington fan. I respect both teams. But that game, Nick, we even talked about it. You literally were so wrapped up in a broadcast in the play before that you missed a play. I think that college football needs to take the NFL's approach, and they need to do a little bit better of a job at vetting who they have on the broadcasting team for each game. I think that a lot of these broadcasters, they provide excitement for casuals, but they need a guy on there like a Tony Romo. They need a guy that's going to tell you for fact what is going on the field. Nick, how many times I get so angry and, to be honest, pissed off at the fact that they call a design quarterback run an RPO, or a read option, or they call a play action pass an RPO. Nick, it's gotten so bad that I watch Skycast if it's available, and I'll listen to that with sound on. I'll listen to the crowd noise. I'll listen to the guy going, 4th and 10 for the offense. I'll listen to the PA announcer over college football commentators. I just can't listen to broadcasts anymore. Peacock has done a horrific job with it. I think that there is way too many channels streaming way too many games, that they are putting their B or C team on pretty big games, that is ruining the excitement for those games. Nick, I can't do it anymore. It's to the point where if I never had to listen to another Gus Johnson, or if I never have to listen to another Reese Davis, or if I never have to listen to another random guy with the raspy voice that covers Mountain West games that I don't even know his name. If I never have to listen to those guys again, I would be very happy and satisfied for the rest of my life. Nick, I'm sick of it. That Peacock game this weekend really pissed me off beyond belief. I think that
Peacock somehow, I'm kind of impressed by this. Like in a really messed up way,
they
they
finessed.
somehow,
They finessed.
no, that's not even what I'm getting at. They somehow made the Penn State whiteout arguably one of the greatest traditions in college football. They made that game feel like a Mountain West game that's playing at 10 o'clock between Colorado State and
They
UNLV.
they
Or,
finessed the rights to a big game. Is what I was going to say. They finessed the rights to a big game because they are an NBC affiliate.
why in the
I'm done with my crash out, but I just
why?
guys
Why?
just
No,
figure
see,
it
now
out.
you got
just,
me started.
just
I was
figure
gonna,
it out.
I was gonna
Figure
just
it
let it
out.
go.
Figure it out.
I was gonna let it go, but no, you got me on there now. Why in the hell should you have to pay for a streaming service to watch your team play one game a freaking year? That is ridiculous. None of these streaming services should have exclusive rights. There's way too many of them. And it's not fair. Me, I'm a guy, I don't want to miss a single Penn State game. There's 12 of them in the regular season, and that's all that's guaranteed. I want to see every single football game. There's 12 of them a freaking year. Luckily enough, I have Peacock. Not everybody has it. So you're going to force these people to miss their game because you're too greedy and they're ruining the sport with these noon kickoffs, with these exclusive rights. You know why? It's because these major outlets, they're not college football fans, they're businessmen. And you're taking something that is so pure and commercializing it with advertisements. They're talking about putting logos on jerseys. That would be that may be the day that I actually crash out at NCAA headquarters because I couldn't take it anymore. It sucks, man. This is such a pure thing college football is. The whole pageantry, everything that we love about it is getting compromised because of these folks that are so greedy and they just want to capitalize on every little thing and they're literally sucking the life out of the sport and it's frustrating beyond belief.
Agree?
You know, it was Colt McCoy actually on the Peacock broadcast. I felt kind of bad because I like Colt, but he doesn't have a commentating voice.
No, and he's not one of those respectable. In college football, he's very respectable, but he's not one of those respectable voices that I want to listen to talk.
You know what? I think if he was more like a Greg McElroy type, where
McElroy's got swagger about him though.
he does, but I'm saying
He's a goofy little shit, but he's got swagger about him.
but just I wouldn't mind McElroy in the broadcast booth as much, but I mean I'm saying he does his, I think
He's
he's
got
with
his college.
CBS maybe.
No, he's with
No,
ESPN. He's got
he
a
is
college the
ESPN.
college
Yeah.
football broadcast, but it's reps. McElroy's got reps. McCoy has no reps.
And he was just kind of plain. He was just kind of plain. He didn't have one of those iconic sounds or he just didn't really have the voice for it. It felt off. If like I said, it felt like a Mountain West game or like it felt like I was watching with listening to the commentary, it felt like I was watching like a random Division 2, Division 3 football game on a streaming like on the internet. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, and before we move on to the next crash out, I really recommend to you college football fans out there, if you are as annoyed as we are about commentating and broadcasting, find a good playlist. I got a couple. Follow me on Spotify. I'll send you over a couple.
You got anything else?
No, I didn't know if you had anything else to crash out. That's why I was doing this.
Oh, no,
I'm getting
no.
a little tired. Um,
That's it.
well, Nick, it's been a great episode. I've been a little sidetracked with the games on TV and stuff like that and the phone call I took. But, Nick, it's been fun. Sorry you had to do a solo last week. It's just you were on vacation and I had
Listen,
plans.
I called some shots. It's all right.
I had some plans last Thursday, but man, it was fun again as always, and I look forward to doing it again next week, and in 2 weeks from now, hopefully doing it together. But Nick, what's your closing thoughts?
I can't believe we're this far
Yeah,
through the season.
it's fast.
It flew by. It always does.
Yeah,
And, it sucks, but it's also we're getting to the fun stuff.
yeah,
That playoff is real. It felt like a multiple. Remember at one point we didn't even have a 14 playoff.
yeah. It
Now we have
was
a 12 team.
whoever's number one and number two in the polls.
This is gonna be nuts, and I'm pumped to watch all these games. But that's really all I got, man. Just another week getting ready for football.
Well, my closing thoughts are: go Tennessee this weekend against Georgia. Super excited about that.
Rocky Top.
And packing sucks. Guys, if you could stay put in your house for the rest of your life, do it because packing sucks, and I can only imagine how bad moving is going to suck. But I'll be home soon. But Nick, as always, remember to keep football holy. You guys have a great one.